first up is a big honor for me. I'd like to introduce you to the #1 best-selling author of the Logan McRae and Ash Henderson series novels. He has written short stories, standalones. He has written a children's book with a character, I think it's called Skeleton Bob, which is really cool. But I just want to mention that when we heard this author, as you can see on their account, was coming to PRH, there were literal squeals of delight from the team. It was so lovely to see. We're very happy, and a very big warm welcome to Mr. Stuart McBride.
Hello. That was a bit more effusive an introduction than I had been expecting. Don't worry, you will soon learn that being associated with me is in no way, shape or form an honor or a pleasure. So, yes, I've been asked to come and say hello. Hello, my name is Stuart McBride. I write crime novels mostly set in the northeast of Scotland. And we, as you can see on your screen right now, we have a new one. My first ever Penguin Random House Transworld book coming out this year, no less the devil. And it's kind of a fun, somewhat twisted story that I've been wanting to tell for a huge amount of time, for years and years and years and years, but never really had the opportunity. And what's happened is that Operation Maypole has been hunting the Bloodsmith for about 17 months now, and they are getting absolutely nowhere. The press is in an uproar. Their bosses are just having an absolute fish about the fact that they cannot catch this guy. The public are just in meltdown. So now is really not the time to get distracted with other things. And unfortunately, Detective Sergeant Lucy McVeigh kind of doesn't have much of a choice on that one, because when he was young, Benedict Strachan, as an 11-year-old boy, brutally stabbed a homeless man to death. Nobody knows why he did it. He's never said anything other than his confession that he did it, never why or what was behind it. But that was 16 years ago, and he's now just got out of prison. And he is, well, he's paranoid. Clearly, he has developed a drug problem when he was inside. He's maybe not thinking entirely straight, but is convinced that there is some sort of shadowy them who control things that we can't see behind the scenes, who have a huge amount of power, and they are after him. And obviously this sounds like utter nonsense, but the thing is, what if he's right? What if there is a cabal that lives in the background that we have no real visible proof of, but who affect our lives in massive ways that we just can't see? And so the book takes off from that point. There's only a very small amount of nudity, very little swearing, a little bit of what people might think is slightly gruesome, but that's all sort of that's when I write, I really want the reader to be in the head of the protagonist. So if somebody is narrating the scene, I don't want to do the whole "look away, gentle reader, this is not for you. We will come back when the nasty thing has been cleared up," because I want you to experience the emotions of the point of view character. I want you to be there in the room with them, rather than shoved off to the side and not trusted. So that's kind of what the book's about. Oh yes, and there will be many funny moments through it as well, because well, certainly when I started writing crime fiction, and not quite so much now, it has changed a little bit in the last year or two, police officers were always portrayed as, "We are robots for justice," and they had no sense of humor. They had no personal lives beyond what was just required for the plot. And of course, police officers aren't like that. They are just like us. They have to be sort of professional and upstanding in public, but as soon as the public aren't there, they are just pretty much, if you have ever worked in a team, that's what it's like to be a police officer. The jokes, the making fun of people, the teasing, there will be ones who are clever, there are ones who will be, how on earth did you get this job and how have you managed to keep it? And yeah, so I like to bring this into my fiction so that the police officers are like real people rather than fictional characters. So that's me sort of just blethering on for ages and ages and ages now. Does anybody have a question? Am I allowed to ask if anybody has a question?
Oh, I wish, Stuart. It's one of those where but if anybody wants to ask a question really quickly, but yeah, just from our side, I mean, you're right about, I know it's your book, but you're right about the humor. It really is. Yeah. Quite great.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. I'm also really sort of pleased to be able to speak to all you guys, because it's been a long time since I was able to actually get out to South Africa. And I didn't see a massive amount of it when I was there. I did see Johannesburg, did see Cape Town, and I have to say a big hello to Sonia and in Stellenbosch, where I spent a very, very boozy morning and afternoon touring the vineyards. But it's a lovely country, lovely people, and I'm really pleased to be able to say hello.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Stuart. It's really great to have you on. Massive honor, and as I said, and we're really looking forward to selling your book.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Cool. Bye. Thank you. Viz, over to you for the next special guest.
Yeah. The prizes keep coming today, Monet. Okay, guys, every now and then, Penguin gets really lucky and we come across something that we know we should publish the minute it comes across us. And this is one of those books. Magda Wierzycka is one of the most successful women in South Africa for a long time now. And she's got a great book. I read an early manuscript of it. I loved it. It's personal. She gives us a lot of great insight into her success and her business. And I think that us getting this book is such a privilege and an honor. And I can go on for quite a while on it. But as a special guest for our webinar tonight, we've got Magda on the line. Welcome, Magda.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. And thank you for that introduction. But you do make my book sound quite dry, and I was trying to make it funny. Basically, I sum up my experience of actually agreeing to write the book as a moment of madness and potentially a lifetime of regret. But I have written a book about my life, starting from the very beginning, and then taking the readers through the turbulence of my career, and frankly, episodes which you couldn't make up if you tried, to the final stages of becoming somewhat of an activist, including working with real-life whistleblowers, and obviously my involvement with the Gupta Leaks affair, including meeting a real-life James Bond. There are villains and heroes scattered through the book, but one thing I want to make clear is that it isn't an expose of the asset management industry, and it's not a finance book. Rather, I hope to appeal to a varied audience and answer a few questions clearly through the lens of my own experiences. So, for instance, to fathers of daughters, I deal with the issue of how they treat women in the workplace and how they want their daughters to be treated and how are they preparing them for what they will encounter. To women in general, not every glass ceiling that a woman hits in a corporate environment is there because of men. Some of those are created by women themselves. To budding entrepreneurs, what is true entrepreneurship? How difficult is it? What does it take to potentially be successful? To young men and women, how to upskill yourself early on in life to become leaders of the future. And it's not about money. And then, perversely, to my Jewish audience, what makes up an identity? But it's not a dry book. I just have too many personal anecdotes to tell. And I'll just list a couple of them that I touch on in the book. I obviously couldn't list all, but I do talk about how I almost got banned from ever working in South Africa again at the age of 25 when I led my first crusade. how a team building event, which involved herding sheep, was a perfect example to me of the difference of how men and women behave in the workplace. I also write about how not to do a corporate deal, because my first one literally involved breaking a window, shedding blood over the paperwork, and then signing before the strike of midnight. How dressing in short skirts, in boots, and tying your hair in a ponytail is the true art of the deal. I can't resist but talk about, sorry, a little bit of a, a braggy bit. I can't avoid talking or resist talking about Christina O, Aristotle Onassis Oljacht, with its infamous whale foreskin bar stools. And then the interesting part is working for, with an ANC military commander, Mziko Malo. As I always say in many of my speeches, it took a Black military leader to give a blonde, white, 32-year-old woman a chance at a time when a white, male-dominated financial services industry would not give me a second glance. And finally, what does it feel like to be followed by state security illegally? I will leave it at that and hope that those of you who bother to read the book enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Magda. That was fantastic. And by the way, the part on washing your hair with beer was very insightful. I found that hilarious. And the fact that and if I couldn't mention it before, there are some really funny moments, especially your life in Poland in the beginning. It's really great.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Magda. Thank you so much. Can't wait. Okay, guys, and then next up, we've got a man who never fails. He's one of our most prolific authors on the Penguin list. You're never short of a book when you have Douglas on your list. He's there in and out year after year, giving us great books. He's done so many in the years gone by, and now we've got something special. So he's moving away from nonfiction a little bit and doing a work of fiction. And this book, the next one, The Man Who Never Was, forms part of our new Trailblazers series through Umuzi. And it's a great little addition. I loved it, but I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to let him tell you about it.
Hi folks, I'm author and speaker Douglas Kruger. After 12 business books, I decided to surprise everyone, myself included, by writing my first novel. It's titled The Man Who Never Was. This is an intensely personal little story about the love and sacrifice of a father for his son. Throughout history, many people have laid down their lives for the sake of their children. The Man Who Never Was asks the question, if it truly mattered to the redemption of your child, could you choose never to have existed in the first place? Our protagonist, David, passes away in the first few chapters of the story, and then he is surprised to discover that not only does his story go on, but he has 3 opportunities to look back in on the unfolding life of his child. He doesn't like what he sees, and so he starts a series of petitions to change the course of his child's life. He discovers that he has no authority over the life of the living. So what else might he do? If he undid his own life, could that change, could that redeem the life of his son? The Man Who Never Was is designed first to charm, then to lull, and then to become a psychological mind-bender that stays with you long after the final gut punch of a page.
See, I told you it was a good book. If you haven't read that one, you've got to pick it up at some time. It's great. The next one is The Kind Kitchen by J. Mack. So you can see his full name there, but he likes to be known as J. Mack. We loved selling this book in, telling managers about it towards the end of last year. And it's a great little book. So if you've gone vegan, he's going to show you how to vegan hard. Okay, so if you've gone vegan, the question is now what? And I'm going to let him tell you all about his new book.
Hello, fellow foodie. My name is Jason McNamara, and I'm the founder and chef of The Kind Kitchen here in Cape Town, South Africa. Pre-COVID, we had 2 restaurants, one in the prestigious Constantia Etzig wine farm and another at the grungy Woodstock CBD in Cape Town. Many of the times we'd have patrons coming up to us saying, hey, we love what you're doing. We've just gone plant-based, we're flexitarian, or we follow a vegan lifestyle. but we've gone vegan or we've gone plant-based. Now what do we do? So that's the tagline to this book, Vegan, Now What? This book features over 90 wonderful recipes, tried and tested recipes from our restaurant, showcasing how to create beautiful meals with your friends and family at home. So why is a book like this important in this day and age? Well, I think my fellow Michelin star chefs in New York and in France, two that I can think of at the top of my head, Chef Claire Vallee at Ola and Chef Daniel Hume at 11 Madison Park. Both of them have dedicated their menus to being plant-based and vegan, and that shows that the world is ready for this change. The world is ready to look at things differently and try something new. Not to say that vegan or plant-based is the only way to enjoy a healthy lifestyle, but it is one of those ways, and it is a simpler, a kinder way to live on the planet and be with the planet. So this is what this book is about, showcasing how you can do that with your friends and family at home, the comfort on your home. It has super simple recipes, like how to create your own cashew coconut yogurt, all the way up to making your own wheat meat at home. So I'm super excited, and I look forward to sharing this with so many more people, thanks to your support and your network. Thank you very much, and I look forward to sharing the kindness.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great one. It's out, just hit the shelves now. If you haven't seen it, pick it up. It's such a gorgeous book. The next one is Brené Brown. This one you might have also seen recently. It just hit the shelves in January. Just take a moment to appreciate how absolutely beautiful this book is. I mean, you put it, it's like one of those books you go out to buy for your friend, and then you end up buying one for yourself as well because it's that good looking. But you all know Brené Brown. She's got books, she's got Netflix specials, she's got a whole lot of media behind her. You know, she's done so much in the last 2 decades. Her research into things like emotions and human beings really has really given a lot of people understanding of themselves. The book covers 13 chapters, and it covers about 87 different emotions. Human beings are very complex, and we have a whole lot of emotions. Some are less complex than others, but she teaches you what it's like. You know, you've been through certain traumas, what that, you know, how do you deal with that? So she's been teaching people and allowing them to be vulnerable for a long time. She's a powerhouse of an author. You know, every time she comes out with a book, it's on the bestseller list. You cannot miss with this book. It's stunning, visually as well. It's got graphics and images inside. And it's one of those books you can kind of just dip in and dip out on any chapter. So you've got chapters for different things like stress and anxiety and, you know, how to deal with that. When I looked at it, I thought this was definitely a winner, and we knew it the minute it came across our desk late last year. So yeah, enjoy it. This is going to be stunning.
All right, first debut of the, Wahala. We can't really do debuts without you guys, can we? We can love them as much as we want, but if you don't love them, we can't really do much. And we really think this is one you will love. As we call it in sales, this is our focus breakout or focus debut for January. It's already on the shelves. It should have been about 2 weeks ago. Doing pretty well. It's a great story. The simple comp and what everyone keeps saying about it is it's kind of like a modern day, I would say, Sex in the City, but with a really dark undertone. But I'll let the wonderful Nikki May tell you about this. It's a great read.
How's it to my readers in South Africa? And I'm here to talk about my debut novel, Wahala. So I've written this book. It's called Wahala, and other people say it's like Sex in the City with a killer edge. I'm happy with that. It's a darkly subversive modern take on friendship, family, and culture, and it's underpinned by this epic story about revenge. In West Africa, the word Wahala is ubiquitous. You hear it 10 times a day. It means trouble, and there's quite a lot of it in my book. It centres on 3 30-something women living in London. They share a mixed Nigerian-British heritage. I can't think where I got that idea from. Ronka's a dentist. She's dating Kayode, and she's desperate for him to be the one. Her friends, however, think he's just another in a long line of dodgy Nigerian boyfriends. Boo has everything Ronke wants: devoted husband, gorgeous child, but she's frustrated and unfulfilled. Then there's Simi, the golden one with the perfect life, on the surface at any rate. When rich and glamorous Isabel explodes into the friend group, at first we think she's bringing out the best in the friends. But Isabel is a wrecking ball. Her motives for causing Wahala propel the narrative all the way to a shocking twist.
I think everyone who's looked at that book when we pitched it, Monet, was that jacket. That jacket is just so great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, guys, the next one is, I'm very excited about this one. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting read and on a subject that's not talked a lot about. I couldn't even find another book that dealt with this particular topic myself. The book is called Guns and Needles, and it's written by Clinton van der Berg, and he has gone into the world of steroid usage and drug culture in South African sport. He's here. He's going to tell us about it, so I'm going to hand it over to him.
Hi, my name is Clinton van der Berg, and I'm the author of Guns and Needles. It's a good book about doping in South African sport, going back 30 years to when steroids first infiltrated. It's packed with remarkable stories about sportsmen and women who doped, who did stupid things, and who inevitably got caught. There's a big chunk on schoolboy rugby, which has been awash with steroids for years. It's thus also a cautionary tale for both boys and their parents, especially as the pressure on schoolboys is so enormous. There's stories of steroid gangsters, steroid deaths even, and the tale of a young South African girl, the youngest ever to be caught doping. I've talked to suppliers and users, athletes who've been caught, and their words are never less than astonishing. What binds them all is the passion South Africans have for sport, a passion that often becomes tangled in chaos and misery. This book is for everyone who cares about sport. It's also for mothers and fathers who must know the lengths to which their kids could go to feed these passions. I really hope readers enjoy the book, the first of its kind locally. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely riveting. You've got to read that one.
Powerful stuff. Talking about powerful stuff, Dr. Julie Smith, she's one of my favorites. Ask the team. I've had to shut up about her because I talk about her too much. But essentially, a clinical psychologist who realized that the most asked question in her on her couch essentially was, why has nobody told me this before? Essentially, she was trying to teach these people small little life skills, not digging into their childhood, literally how to get by, how to get up in the morning. And she realized no one had talked about these things. No one had told these people how to acquire these life skills. So what she did is she started a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel, and a TikTok channel. And she started posting these 30-second to 1-minute videos. And she did well on YouTube, did really well on Instagram. It did incredibly well on TikTok. She's got 3.1 million followers on TikTok. The video we're going to show you is partly one of her clips. I cannot recommend this book enough if you're suffering from anxiety or stress or just feeling run down. Basically anything. This is a book that you can dip in, dip out, quick read, brilliant.
Imagine this is you, and this is the stress that you face every day. Stress is inevitable. It pours in, but you have the capacity to deal with it for a while. Now, as that pressure builds, you think you can just keep going. But what if that stress keeps on coming and we don't do anything about it? Everyone has a breaking point. So what's the answer? Exercise is your release valve. It's free, and it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your mental health. So if you only do one thing today, move your body. I'm Dr. Julie Smith, and here is something people learn in therapy that can be life-changing. The number one thing that makes anxiety worse is avoidance of the thing that we fear. Anxiety tells us to back off, but the things that we do every day become our comfort zone. So if there's something you want to master, but it makes you nervous, do it as much as you possibly can. My book, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before, is packed full with insights from therapy and psychology research on how you can look after your mental health in day-to-day life. As a clinical psychologist, I've worked with people from all walks of life, from young people with anxiety and depression to veterans in the MOD, to addiction services and crisis teams in the NHS. When the pandemic hit, I wanted to share some of those skills that people learn in therapy to help people get through. Less than 2 years later, and over 3.5 million people are using those videos to help themselves through tough times. But 60-second videos don't always give me enough time to get in all the details. So here are all those details of exactly how you can use all those insights from therapy in your day-to-day life. It's called Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? And it's out on the 6th of January.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having a moment. And anyway, from one exciting book to me, one of the most exciting books. Is everyone as excited as we are? Next week, Tuesday, a little book called, again, Rachel. Yeah, anybody know Marion Keyes?
The Return of Rachel.
Seriously, though, yeah. Well, but I mean, seriously though, we at PRH have massive love for Marion Keyes. We always have, and we're so happy that she's finally reached, I would say, new heights. But she can, we can do so much more with her. I do want to say this is obviously a follow-up to Rachel's Holiday, and I had the absolute pleasure of listening to someone or watching someone as they were reading Rachel's Holiday to prepare for Young Rachel, and I've never heard this person laugh as loudly and as much when reading a book. And I'm sure, again, Rachel will be no different, but let me shut up. Here's Marion Keyes to tell you about it.
I thought I'd never write a sequel, and I actually tried to write a sequel to Watermelon a couple of books ago, and it was an absolute disaster. Like, I couldn't do it. So this is the first sequel that I've actually managed to write. Hi, I'm Marion Keyes, and I'm here to talk to you about Again Rachel, which will be published on the 17th of February in 2022. That's next year. I have a young friend. She was a big fan of Rachel's Holiday, and I was afraid that she would kind of go, "Oh, Jesus Christ, no, do whatever you do, don't." And she said she got shivers, like the hairs on the back of her neck lifted. And I thought, okay. I mean, of all the books I thought I would write a sequel to, Rachel's Holiday would have been the last one, because it seemed to matter so much to people. You can't just pick up at the happy ending. You know, there has to be pain, there has to be disappointment, there has to be reversals. I love that word, reversals and setbacks. And the last thing I wanted was reversals and setbacks for Rachel. But a reversal and setback came to me, probably because enough time has passed as well. She's a different person now than she was when I first wrote about her. I mean, she's a very ordinary young woman, apart from the fact that she's an addict. But she's not young anymore. But you see, I forget that I'm not young. I think the fact that she kind of got over herself in Rachel's Holiday is something that a lot of people could identify with. And then there were just other things that I think people identified with, that she lived mostly on crunchy nut cornflakes, and her theory was that any food eaten standing up has no calories. I think Rachel had and has so many faults and still manages to kind of be okay.
Oh, can't wait. That's going to be so good, man. All right. Marion Keyes will never let you down. It's going to be one of the biggest books of this year. That's without question, without question. The next one is from two really, really great authors. They brought us a great book last year called Rogues Gallery, if you remember that. And now they are back with another one called Spoiled Ballots. They're funny, it's educational, it's entertaining, it's everything you need a history book to be. I'm so glad they're back on the list this year. The book is called Spoiled Ballots, and here's Matthew Blackman and Nick Dahl to tell you about it.
My name is Matthew Blackman.
And my name is Nick Dahl. And we are the authors of Spoiled Ballots, which tells the history of the elections that have shaped South Africa, from the assassination of King Shaka in 1828, all the way through to the ANC conference at Nasrec in 2017. Including Shaka in the book was, I guess, a little bit cheeky, because it obviously wasn't a democratic election, but we just noticed that once he'd been assassinated by his brothers Dingaan and Mhlangana, the struggle which ensued between them had a lot of the hallmarks of an election, and it just seemed too interesting not to include.
4 interesting facts about the book are that in 1854, Black men in the Cape Colony had more political rights than they would have for the next 140 years. That Paul Kruger almost lost control of the ZAR in 1893. That the Constitution of South Africa in 1910 would set up many of the problems that we would encounter during apartheid. And that during the 1960s and 70s, English speakers in their droves voted for the apartheid system.
Given that South Africa's democratic history has been one of a lot of exclusion, we tried to make the book as much about people who couldn't vote as it is about those who could. The book is filled with loads of interesting photographs, ballot papers, telegrams, election posters, snippets from speeches and diaries and letters. Even though it's a pretty heavy-going topic, there's no denying that, we have tried to make it lighthearted and entertaining and even downright funny at every opportunity.
Yeah, and we hope that it's an enjoyable read.
I always say those are the two guys you want to hang out with at a braai. They're the smartest, most educated bunch you can talk to and entertaining. Great.
I get to talk about something else that's pretty entertaining here. Like I said to you guys, we love a good debut, and personally, this is my favorite. At least at the moment, these things do tend to change on a weekly basis. But I mean, how good is that jacket? We've started. This is just hit stores, I think, literally yesterday afternoon, and I've already got 4 or 5 pictures of stores putting up beautiful displays around this, and you'll recognize the kind of cover treatment. It might bring back a memory of a few years ago, a book called The Binding, which this is the same artist that designed this cover, and I think you'll agree it's freaking gorgeous. But yeah. Getting to the story, it's set in Georgian London. I heard, and I saw somebody put in the chat, they love books set in London. Well, this is set in Georgian London in 1799, and you meet Dora Blake. But she's a aspiring jewelry artist, designer, if is probably a better word to use. She's not really getting anywhere because people don't take her and women in general in 1799 very seriously. And she lives with her uncle, Ezekiel. Ezekiel is the quintessential Bond villain. He has no redeeming qualities. He is just a bad, bad guy. And Ezekiel, after Dora's parents passed away, they were explorers, and they owned a shop for antiques. Ezekiel took over the shop, and Dora now lives with Ezekiel. Things are not going well for Dora, but everything changes with the arrival of a very mysterious Greek vase, an ancient Greek vase. And Ezekiel starts acting really strangely, like even for him, strange. Dora is fascinated by this vase and what he's doing and what does this mean. And she employs the help of a guy called Edward Lawrence, who is a bookbinder by trade, but his kind of passion is he wants to be in the Society of Antiquities, which means that he would have to get in. He would have to essentially discover some kind of antique or ancient vase, ancient Greek vase that has just been delivered to a shop. So Dora and Edward go on this quest to kind of find out about the vase and what Ezekiel's involvement is. And as they progress, Edward starts finding out a few things about the vase, and the things that he finds out throws Dora's life into complete disarray. She has to rethink everything she thought about her family, her life, and actually the world around her. And she actually realizes that some doors, and in this case, some vases or boxes, like Pandora's box, should actually just be left closed. Maybe it's better to leave it closed. As you can hear, the myth of Pandora and her famed box plays quite a large part here. I do want to point out on the cover, you'll see a magpie. He's called Hermes. He's the protector of Dora. Also in the myth, he's the messenger of the gods that brings the vase. So there's lots of parallels. Dora's name is Dora, Pandora. But it is a mystery. It's got adventure. It's got quirkiness. It's also got the inevitable romance, but maybe not exactly in the way you think it is, and with the characters that you think should end up together. Maybe it surprises you. Having said that, it's an easy read. The words that kept coming to mind for me were lush and atmospheric, as in the lushness of something like, and I hate comparing it to this because it's a very unique book. The Essex Serpent, maybe the atmosphere of something like Circe. I know those are big comps, but I think this book deserves it. I cannot recommend this book enough. You will race through it. And yeah, it's just all appreciate that lovely cover. It's out now.
Stunning. Okay, we're so glad this year to have Fred Khumalo back on the list. I've been up and down all week, last week, talking about this one because I think, and I'm going to tempt fate here, Monet, this is going to be one of his bigger books to date, because I believe in it. I think it's a great premise. It's a great book, and it's one of the most lovable characters you're ever going to come across in a book. It just shows us how versatile Fred Khumalo actually is. He can put together these really great stories and tackle issues that he's always been tackling, but now he's doing it through the eyes of a 13-year-old girl. And I think this is a game changer for his readership. If you haven't read him, this will be the one to start. I think it's going to be a great one. So I'm going to let him tell you about it. So here goes.
Hi, I'm Fred Khumalo, novelist and short story writer, but most importantly, author of the upcoming novel, 2 Tons of Fun. It's a coming-of-age story set in Alexandra Township in Johannesburg. In a very hilarious voice, it grapples with a number of contemporary challenges, ranging from xenophobia to displacement, from household or domestic violence to racism, and just trying to find oneself in a fast-changing South Africa. It's a very relatable story, told in an engaging and humorous style, if I might say so myself as the author. Thank you very much. Look out for it, and you'll be glad you read it.
You will be glad you read it. Trust me. Just as I said on the promise, Monet, this one I've got a really good sense of for this year. Nice. I'm telling you. Yeah. All right. So my Station Street Kitchen, also available in Afrikaans, as you see there. Chef Maynard Joubert has been in this world for a long time, particularly his own restaurant called the Station Street Kitchen, which is about 8 years old. And in it, he welcomes, if you are in Cape Town and you've had the pleasure of being there, you'll know what I'm talking about. He welcomes you in, and he'll feed you and entertain you and just give you a really good time until the night is through. And I think that in this book, we've achieved that. You probably would recognize him. He was on CakeNet for quite a while. He won the Kokador cooking competition. He designed cookbooks for them and another show called Makiti, sorry. And I think that, at Penguin, we always pride ourselves in how well we do with cookery books. And whatever we put out there, you wouldn't believe the amount of heart and passion and love that goes into every single cookbook. We don't really put anything out there that's below that level. And this book, when you look at it, is going to give you a sense of that. So if you wanted to entertain a bunch of people and they're going to come over, so the book is going to take you from cocktails and canapes right down to mains, dessert, and everything in between. This book is going to give it to you in that order. So through the recipes that are in the book, you're going to be able to design or put together your own menu for the evening and entertain your guests. And that's what it's all about. His passion is people and feeding them and making them happy, and comes through in this book. And what he hopes, I think, is for you to be able to do the same for your people. It's a stunning book. Look out for it. It's coming really soon, and enjoy. Yeah, my Station Street Kitchen.
Lovely. We would never miss an opportunity to talk about Greg Hurwitz. There are many fans here Yeah, we just absolutely love the guy and the character that is Evan Smoke. Only. What is lovely about this is now book 7. I cannot believe this has not been made into a Netflix series yet. It would make the perfect Netflix series. To put you in the picture, after having survived the books, the events of book 6, which you always think at the end, Evan's gone. He's never going to make it, and somehow he survives even these things. He's in book 7, and he's faced with a bit of a moral conundrum for the first time, really. I would say he's got a big set of morals, but now he's been asked to help a drug kingpin whose daughter has been kidnapped by a cartel leader. And this cartel leader makes, what's that guy from Narcos? Pablo Escobar. It makes Pablo Escobar look like a teddy bear. So obviously, Evan is torn because he doesn't, his ethics with a drug dealer, he doesn't really want to help him, but otherwise this girl will die. And that adds another layer to the Evan Smoke character, which adds a lot of weight to the series. In this book, there's a lot of moments of real kindness and tenderness and like emotion, actually, which is really nice. Having said that, it is action, action, action. All the characters are back, and I love the supporting cast in these novels. Tommy, Mia, Joey, Dog, they're all back. They're all facing their own kinds of problems and choices that they have to make. They all evolve over the novels, and this one has a really big one for Evan and Mia's relationship. If you're a fan of the series, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, Evan's condo, his kind of bat cave, also suffers quite drastically in the first couple of chapters. It is a great read. I always think Evan Smoke is the natural successor to somebody like Jack Reacher. It is a fascinating read, actually, because it's so well researched. But as I said, I do think Evan Smoke can take Jack Reacher in a bar fight. And if you're looking for pure escapist thrillers with a surprising amount of humanity and tenderness this time around, this is certainly worth a read. I highly recommend it. Ooh, if you have been living under a rock for the last, well, I don't know how long, then you wouldn't recognize this face or know about this project. So if you have, a little person called Dolly Parton is writing a book with a small author called James Patterson. Seriously though, guys, this is one of the publishing events of 2022. The support that you guys have shown us already, certainly from the sales side, has been amazing, and there's been so much interest in this book. You cannot ask for a better spokesperson for anything, actually, than Dolly Parton. So let me shut up and pass to Dolly Parton so she can tell us about it.
Hello to everyone in South Africa. Dolly Parton here, and I could not be more excited about the release of my very first novel, Run, Rose, Run, with James Patterson. This has been a passion project for me, and I have combined my love of storytelling and books in this project. I also have a new album to go along with the book, based on its characters and situations. I hope you enjoy the book and the songs as much as we have enjoyed putting it together for you. Run, Rose, Run is out now in all bookstores and online.
So sorry, just to say it's not out now. That's obviously it'll be out. I think the 7th of March is the embargo date. Cool.
I just love the way she says South Africa.
Love it.
Okay, the next one is a great nonfiction title coming by Professor Zoe Chance. She has been teaching a course at Yale University for a long time. So it ended up being one of the most popular courses on influence and persuasion in that university for a while. And she's coming from a place of ethics and having influence. And influence can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. You get bad influences and good influences. So this is coming from a place of influence through having ethics, doing the right thing, influencing, inspiring your community, your family, your co-workers. So it's all about that. It's not just, when I first looked at it, I thought it was just sort of sales, but it's not. It's actually just being an influencer in terms of, not in the social media aspect, but in the sense that you as a person have a lot of power within you to actually influence other people. When I looked at it, the book is written really, really well. It's split up into 3 parts, and she really has done so much research into human behavior and how you can actually be better at influence and persuasion. Like there's great chapters on negotiation and, you know, sort of creating a situation where you both come out winning. I think that this one will surprise us when it hits the shelves, and I think that it's a great book. You know, early on when I heard the salesman just talking about it, they said they compared it to How to Win Friends and Influence People, which was written a long time ago. But this is a modern take on that. You know, this is something that's deep. It's a lot deeper. And when I read it, it kind of gave me a sense of what Susan Cain did for personality types, and how she broke that down and how there's strengths in each one. That's kind of what she does here with the subject of influence. You know, it shows how you as a person can actually have a lot of power already. You just need to tap into it, which is great. And speaking of influence, I'd like to influence you guys to stay until the end of the webinar, because we've got a great little link there to the survey. So please stay with us to the end, and there'll be something great on that. Okay, I actually get a fiction book, Moni. It's all been non-fiction for me, right? Okay.
I actually didn't realize, sorry.
I know, I just had so much of non-fiction. Okay, I'm so happy to present a fiction title. Yes. Harlan Coben, I did The Boy from the Woods at this same event a few years ago. And I hadn't really read much of Harlan Coben before that, and I got into it in a big way after that book. One of the things that stuck with me with that book was when I put it down, and if you were at the Trade and Media event in 2019, you'll know I was really excited about it. And I still have a man crush on Harlan Coben and Wilde. And I thought, you have to bring Wilde back. You have to bring this guy back. This character is so compelling. And he's done it. Listen to it. The writing gods have done their thing, and we've got a sequel to The Boy from the Woods, and Wilde is back. And the reason for the title is Wilde is, in the first book, it didn't really give you much insight into his backstory, and there's a lot happening there because he was busy doing other things in the book. In this book, he taps into, he goes onto a website, types in sort of in genealogy and DNA, and he finds a match, a biological match for himself, and it's his father. And he goes up, it starts off, and he meets this man, and they have this very brief conversation, and he kind of walks away. And then there's a link up to another family member that could be on the mother's side. So he's trying to figure out his roots, and he's struggling with it. And as he gets closer and closer, every time he gets closer to that truth, someone dies. So it's classic Harlan Coben. It's fast-paced, it's action-packed, it's funny, it's so funny. And I think this is definitely has to be, if you love Harlan Coben or fiction in general, if you haven't read Harlan Coben ever before, this is you can pick it up and read it, and you'll be a fan. I would recommend reading Boy from the Woods though. So yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting one. I couldn't wait for it. I'm so glad that they gave it to me to present, because I'm such a fan. And it's going to sell like hotcakes. I think this is going to be a big fiction title for us this year. So please read it, enjoy it, and enjoy selling it.
I think it's a given that Viz will just present Harlan Coben for the rest of his life,
yeah.
even when you retire. Guys, this is one that I'm quite passionate about. Small book, very easy to read, but there's a reason you should pay attention to this. The personal finance as a section selling out to the market, and I won't bore you with numbers, but essentially it's one of the fastest growing sections in the market at the moment, and that seems to be driven by young working professionals trying to secure their own financial future. Now, one of the first things that comes across a young working professional's desk probably, and one of the big things we think about is, how do I buy a home? Can I own my own home? And Google isn't much help. This is one thing where Google is correct. If you Google this kind of thing, you will get paid ads, you will get referred to banks, you will get referred to estate agents, and they will, sorry, but hoodwink you. So most people, young people and older people looking to buy their home, they either give up, or worse, they actually just make a bad deal, and they've done the wrong thing that influences them for decades. This uses real case studies Tells you the common mistakes that people make. It's really accessible. There's no real jargon in here. It's the hero title of what we're calling, and Visitors help title this, our Up and Up promotion, which is essentially a personal finance for local books running in April. And I think this is going to do really, really, really well. I cannot recommend it enough, whatever age you are.
Fantastic.
Oh, okay. So you know how Pandora is my favorite. This is kind of, in terms of in-house favorites at the moment, there's a competition between Pandora and this. Proofs of this will start going out quite soon, and the team have done a beautiful job on this. If you get it, read it. If you don't get it, ask for it, then read it. All I will say is you will never forget the character Elizabeth Zott.
Hello to my readers in South Africa. I'm Bonnie Garmas, and I wrote Lessons in Chemistry. Imagine you get a great job offer. It's to be the host of a TV cooking show, but you don't want it. You're a chemist. You belong in the lab. However, it's also the late 1950s, and you're pregnant, you're unwed, and you've really irritated all the men at work because you have a mind and you continually use it. So you're fired. After a few pretty thin financial years, you revisit that idea of the TV show. And when they offer it, you reluctantly accept the offer. What you don't accept, however, is the woman they want you to portray, someone pretty and smiley who teaches the housewives at home how to make a meal. Instead, what you do is you look into the camera and you teach them chemistry. And that's because cooking is chemistry. And what results is the show results in a catalyst for national change. This is the story of Elizabeth Zott. She's the protagonist of Lessons in Chemistry. And as Elizabeth would say, children, set the table. Your mother needs a moment to change the status quo.
That's badass. Great. Okay, so Andrew Brown, you probably know the name. That book is just as riveting as that cover. If you look at that cover, you probably went, wow, there's a lot happening there. And it's from the beginning. The opening scene is like, if you've ever watched the movie Heat, and it's that heist scene in the beginning of Heat, that's almost the scene in the beginning of this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's got a great villain and a great protagonist, and the character of Eberhard February, I mean, he's so flawed and funny and sometimes a bit tragic as well. But what's happened in this book basically is there's a new gang of cash in transit thieves who move their operation from Gauteng region down to Cape Town. All of a sudden, Cape Town is inundated, like sort of being hit with all these different heists, and it's done in a really clinical, really put together way, and it's very compelling to read. And our main character Eberhard is basically ends up on the case of these thieves who are always sort of one step ahead of him. I think it's riveting, it's great, and I think that this is if you like local fiction but with a sort of raw thriller edge, this is the one for you. This is absolutely great. I really loved it.
Cool. Viz, I mean, you mentioned Susan Cain a few books back.
Yes. Yep.
And I guess it's no surprise to anyone that I kind of root for her. Her book Quiet did for introverts what I don't think any book has ever done. It's just incredible the way introverts have been accepted for who they are in the last couple of years and pulled into teams. So she's actually a revolutionary. You might not hear about it because introverts love her. But this is the same kind of thing. And I couldn't imagine a better time to do this book. Essentially, think of bittersweet as a view of life where you experience both the joy and the sorrow in everything, and how important that is. But I struggle to kind of put words to the concept of bittersweet. It's an emotion. I think we can all, if we think about it, you can almost feel it You can feel what bittersweet is, but try explaining it. So she does quite a good job in the book. She uses a couple of examples. She talks about how you might be sitting outside sometime, just having a glass of wine, contemplating, and you might realize that time is passing really quickly. Like your life is going really quickly, and you might have a bittersweet moment about that. You might be having a gander at the sunset and get a lump in your throat. At this beautiful moment that you're experiencing. The one that really resonated with me, and this is not exactly what she says in the book, obviously, but she talks about, it can even be something as simple as an ad that you see on the TV now. What I immediately thought of is, years ago, and maybe I'm giving away my age now, there was an ad about the Foxy with the family, the couple, who get into the car and they kind of live their life, I remember the days of my life, that one. And then at the end, the dad gives the son the card and he hands over the keys. And I was sitting there going, this is, yeah, and that's an ad. That's kind of bittersweet. That feeling is bittersweet. And the thing that Susan Cain, the argument she makes, and she proves it, is the value of not suppressing those feelings, grief, longing, like most of us do. I mean, if you experience those feelings, you don't want to, so you just suppress them and kind of get on with life. But if you actually accept and learn how to use those feelings, you will have the most beautiful moments in your life. She puts it so beautifully. It can also have a tangible effect on things like, you wouldn't believe it, but leadership, creativity, your thoughts on mortality, ethics, all of these things. It has tangible applications for pretty much everything. And if we don't embrace these feelings, we risk doing that damage to other people. And I think that's something that we've all experienced or done to other people, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Bittersweet is a book that will work through those feelings. And I truly believe if you read it, it will bring us together. That's the important thing about this book. It'll warm your heart, it'll touch your soul. It truly is a book that everyone needs to read.
Wow, sounds great. It's like another hit for Susan Cain there. Okay, James Patterson. I mean, he's done so much for our industry. Let it never be forgotten how much James Patterson has done for the book industry. And all the work that he's done, all the books that he's done, there are pillars, and there's some big pillars like Alex Cross, and there's some big pillars like Women's Murder Club. I mean, going into a brand new Women's Murder Club, 22 Seconds. I'm not going to go too much into the plot line, but just to say that this is one of the fastest and best-selling series to date in his stable. I think that this, it comes in, it sells really great, and you can't mess with it. So yeah, this is the 22nd book in the series, which is quite apt because it's 2022, and that's perfect for James Patterson. So yeah, I think this is going to be great, and it's only getting stronger from here for the series.
So I know we're running a little bit over time. Sorry, we got a bit carried away, but please stick around till the end. There'll be something really sweet at the end, I think. Book of Night. I wouldn't miss an opportunity to talk about this, having read it in one sitting, literally from 11 o'clock in the morning, I think about till 8 o'clock at night. I will rave about this for a long time. Urban fantasy. This is her first adult novel. You will recognize the name, obviously. She's done a lot of YA stuff, which has had, I guess, spill over into adult stuff, but this is her first purely adult novel, and it's urban fantasy at its very best. In this world, it's essentially all about shadows. Shadows can be manicured, kind of, to the rich and famous use this to show off their wealth and kind of fun things, but they can also be used by a certain select few people who are, I guess, able to do these things. They can be used to do a lot of things, but manipulate feelings, wipe out memories, almost control people, and many other things. It's not complicated. I don't want to make it too complicated, but there's a price to pay when you do these things with your shadow. You could lose days, months, years of your life. There's a ritual that goes into it. It's very dark magic and kind of thing. And in this world, you'll meet Charlie Hall. She is She's kick-ass. She is, you meet her behind a bar, she's kind of jaded. Think Jessica Jones meets almost Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that kind of thing. And she doesn't have fix-it-all powers, which I absolutely love. She can't fix everything. She's just a person working behind a bar who has a shady past. She used to be a thief. And she's trying to get on the straight and narrow. Obviously, that doesn't work the way she wants. And one night, she witnesses a murder by what she thinks is a shadow at the time. Then somebody from her past reappears, and everything just goes out the window. There are secret societies. There are these mercurial millionaires. The plot is great. It isn't. I do want to state this overtly, though. For fantasy, this isn't. There aren't 400 characters here. You will read this easily. It's my kind of beach read. I would absolutely take this to the beach. And I will say it's about time we had a new queen of urban fantasy. And I think this is the one.
Okay, as I said earlier on in the webinar, we've gotten very lucky this year at Penguin Random House. First with Magda's book, and now with Sarai Khumalo, the first Black African woman to summit Everest. But I'm not going to be telling you about it. I'm going to leave her to do that. So here we have Sarai Khumalo.
Hello, my name is Sarah Khumalo, the first Black African woman to summit Everest. And this is my memoir. Yes, you heard right. It's all about me. But more importantly, it's an African story. A story that takes you from Lusaka, Zambia, where I was born, as a young girl in a family of 7 girls, raised by a single mother and supported by grandparents, really raised by a village. A story of this young girl believing that she could never be a superhero, to realizing that she is extraordinary and reminding the world that we are all uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. A journey that takes me into a marriage, raising my own family, an abusive relationship, a journey that takes me onto the mountains to make a difference in my environment. That helped me realize that if I want to see change outside, it needed to start with me. A journey that took me into an environment that told me I didn't belong. And I forced through because I belong where I need to be, where I feel I want to go, where I know I can make a difference. And so can we all. A story that takes me to Everest, the highest mountain in the world, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times, until that historic morning on the 16th of May, 2019, when I summited 66 years after Sir Hilary and Tanzan had done so in 1953. It is a story that really reminds us that we are all uniquely extraordinary, and being ordinary is a choice. If we fail, as we will every now and again, we must fail forward. Always be ready for opportunities that await, because they're not going to wait forever. Always fall back on what is important to you. If you know what is important to you and it's aligned to your values, you will never fail. But there will always be learnings and moving forward into the greatness of who you are. It is a story that says we all have our own Everest. And whatever it is, this book has got nuggets that can remind you of how to remain extraordinary, how we as a generation can change the narrative for the next generation of Africans. It's a story that I am proud of, a story that has ups and downs, but I hope a story that will make you proud to be an African, whether you're Black or white. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Khumalo, and I'm hoping you'll dig in and read and give me some feedback. Thank you.
Wow, that's going to be a powerhouse of a book to read this year. No short of inspiration, Monet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you've stuck with us for a long, long time. Thank you so much. We're not going to take too much more of your time. For those of you who stuck with us till the end, thank you so much again. We have a special treat. I wish it was milk tart, but we have a special treat for you this evening. We actually have Sally Andrew in the building, so to speak, and she's going to tell us about her new book, The Milk Tart Brothers.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Sally.
Lovely to be here with you guys tonight. I'm really you're my heroes. We as authors, we create this fantasy world, even if it's fiction or non-fiction, and you allow readers to step into that seamlessly. So the publishers, the media, the booksellers make that transition very seamless. I think otherwise we'd have to be walking around like Jehovah's Witnesses with these big grubby manuscripts, accosting people in the streets or knocking on the door and say, would you like to read my words? So thank you. Thank you for being there and doing what you do and allowing us to play. So I'm just so love this cover. I can't remember if it's actually back to front, if it's on the right, Marilyn Monroe. I mean, when do you get to put Marilyn Monroe and a milk tart murder in one image? And I get to dress up as Marilyn Monroe because I often dress up as a character at my book launches. And if, by the way, if either of you, I don't know, Mornavis, if you've got any Marilyn Monroe wigs, I really need one. I've got a dress and the shoes.
Oh, I'm sure we can arrange something.
Come up with something.
Yeah.
So in this Tiny Maria murder mystery, this is the fourth in the series, and each one is in a different season. So there's been summer, what happens next? Autumn, winter, and this one is in spring. And it begins with the swallows flying into the room where Tiny Maria and Henk are lying, and it begins with a marriage proposal and lemon drizzle cake. But then it's all downhill from there. In fact, I give poor Tiny Maria such a hard time. I promised her that when the cookbook comes out, she's just going to have a lovely fun time and dance and eat and sing. So, but she has a really hard time. She has, apart from having to deal with a murder, which isn't such fun, although it's intriguing for her. She also has to deal with a lot of conflict in her relationship with Henk. She even has a fallout with Jessie, and she really looks at some of her own inner demons. It's a similar recipe, the book, to the previous ones. So the clue in the first book is recipes for love and murder. There is murder. The first murder takes place during a Marilyn Monroe movie in Opa Frick's Fantastiques collectibles store in Ladysmith. There's another murder involving an antique dagger and a pink bra and a hidden treasures and clues hidden in this collectibles shop. And then there's the recipes. For those who don't know Tiny Maria, she's an agony aunt in the Clan Carew Gazette, and she writes, people write in with their problems, and she gives a little bit of wise, sage advice, and then she gives a recipe that's going to help with healing their problem. And then there's always the theme of love, which is a very challenging one for Maria in this one, although there's also another chap comes onto the scene, which is quite curious. And in all the books, I go on something of a healing journey, and I find something archetypal that Maria goes through that I also want to work through. And the theme in this one is the theme of jealousy. So that's something that gets explored, and how that is related to one's sense of self-worth and self-love. So that's something I explored and Maria explored with me. I think that in terms of just from a marketing perspective, I think that readers are ready. I feel like all the readers have become friends with Tiny Maria, and any friend of Tiny Maria is a friend of mine. And I feel like there's this whole group of friends who just, even when they start hearing about the book, they're getting, oh, they're so excited. And I feel so excited that my friends are going to get to share in the friend I get to hang out with all the time, and everyone else has to wait. And I think it's time, people are ready for some joy. It's really just been a damn long, hard time for so many people in so many ways. And Tiny Maria, even though there's so many ordeals she must work through, essentially she just comes with this message of joy, and where there are troubles, there's always her healing journey. I think the previous 3 books help with the marketing of the book. And there's also a movie, a TV series that's coming out on the 20th of March on Mnet based on the first book, Recipes for Love and Murder, 10 episodes in there. And there'll be international premiere, in fact, of the TV series at the Berlinale sometime in February. So that's scary. That's another whole subject. It's very scary. The movie is going to be very different, but the main character is Scottish. Henk Kannemeyer is a Zulu called Kaya Meyer. So there's a lot of big changes, but there's also a lot of the essential archetypal aspects of the story that I think are held. And there's fantastic cast, fantastic directors. I think it's going to be a brilliant thing. It's going to be separate from the books, but it's going to do a lot of promotional work for the book. So I think it'll be fun. I've got a 30-second, but I think I've used up my time, but I've got a 30-second summary recipe of the book. Have we got 30 seconds or have I used up my time?
Yeah, please go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So the ingredients in this book is 3 cubes of Lady Smith stock, 1 marriage proposal, 1 and only Klein Karoo Gazette, 2 red velvet cakes, 1 bottle of vintage vinaigrette, 1 Marilyn Monroe movie, murders, at least 2, milk tart, at least 1, chocolate eclairs, 1 too many, 1 antique dagger, 1 goat called Mildred, 2 handfuls of assorted treasures, 3 feltfuls of spring flowers, $4 dollops of burgers and milkshakes, 1 hungry jackal, 5 plump chickens, 1 ancient guarri tree, 12 drops of Tani Maria essence. And the method is to steep the ingredients in the vintage vinaigrette, add 1 at a time to an enamel pot, simmer and stir. When the jackal arrives, allow the dish to burn a little. Cool slightly before adding the essence.
Wow.
That sounds amazing.
That's amazing, Sally. Thank you so much. You make it so easy for us here. And we're very lucky to have you, and we're very lucky to have another Tani Maria in 2022. We are so glad to have this book. I wish you could have been in the rooms when Moray and I pitched the book to the trade and people, out there, and the faces when they saw the cover even was just something else. So it's really been a pleasure from our side. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Great. Okay, Moray, I think that's where we close things tonight, right?
Yeah,
wow,
I think so.
It's been quite a nice. It feels short now that before after I was looking at it thinking, oh, it's a big mountain this evening, but now it's all gone. And that's just some of the highlights that we have for you this year. And that's just Jan to June. We'll be back again in July to tell you about the next half of the year. But with all the titles that we've given you this evening, there's so much more on our list. So please, just have a look at those. And these are the titles that we think are going to do really well, and they will. Thanks again for those of you that have stayed with us till the end of it. When the webinar ends, there's going to be a link to a survey. Please, would you mind staying behind and finishing it? There's also a link to the catalog for all the other titles and these ones, and also a link to the recorded presentation